reflections of my own, but also my wife, Trudy Mercurio, who very much appreciated the modest engagements that she too had with Sir Eric, and also from former Premiers Marshall and Brown. So I will move through my own reflections as quickly as I can. But Sir Eric Neal, as the Chancellor of Flinders University, presented my wife with both of her undergraduate bachelor's degrees, her Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Laws. And I was reflecting on the Premier's comments earlier, the fact that all of the students at Flinders University during his time knew who their Chancellor was, which I reflect in my own time. I might have known who the Chancellor of my university was. I was involved in student politics, but I very much doubt that many did. But Sir Eric was a live and central presence in the student life at Flinders University, as well as his significant contribution to the organisation of Flinders and the achievements that it has now. The decisions to invest in their engineering faculty, for example, the direct inspiration of Sir Eric, and the extraordinary steps forward that have been taken over the last 2.5 decades by Flinders University in areas such as engineering and science research and cancer research and some of these other areas. Look, I know he was proud of them, because still up to last year and the year before, I had the extraordinary privilege of being able to sit with him at those Flinders University events, and the reflection that he still had on them was very dear to his heart. The fact that at the age of 98 and 99 that he was still attending these events, I think, is testimony to his lifelong service and his commitment to the things he was so passionate about. Trudy was also very, very fond of Sir Eric for the other impact he had in her life as patron of Scouts SA. I think potentially when he was the governor, he also presented her with her Queen's Scout Award. And these 3 presentations made a mark in her life, and she very much enjoyed when we then met Sir Eric. It was the first time I'd met him. I'd seen him before, I hadn't met him before. We went to a History Trust event, and she had the opportunity to share her reflections. I'm grateful to him, as we are, for the real interest he took in how Flinders University and the Scouting movement had impacted her life. That event, organised by the History Trust, which was under my portfolio responsibilities at the time, was a special event organised by Julian Stefani, along with Elizabeth Ho and Greg Mackey, to commemorate the establishment of Settlement Square. Many people may have walked on it or been to events there. It's next to the Migration Museum, where many South Australians have celebrated their migrant heritage by purchasing a brick, fundraising for the History Trust, and marking on those bricks the names of people who've migrated to South Australia, along with the dates of their journey, and it's an extraordinary marker. It was established with the support of former Governor Hugh Van Lanley and former Governor Sir Eric Neal and Lady Joan. And my recollection is that the 4 of them were the first 4 bricks purchased, and they are proud in the centre of Settlement Square. Trudy and I were very proud to purchase 4 bricks to conclude that journey among the last 10 for our parents who've had a similar migrant journey. The fact that, again, into his 90s, into his late 90s, Sir Eric still had a real interest in that project and pride in the work of the Migration Museum and his migrant story, I think, is another example of how he represents the best of South Australia. Commemorating those journeys is embodying the best of our state. The last time I met with and had the opportunity to talk to Sir Eric was at another organisation which was dear to his heart and which he invested his own money and time in. At the age of 99, just weeks prior to his 100th birthday, he was at the presentation of Playford Trust Award scholarships, including the one which he had sponsored and was there in his name. And my recollection is that he really wanted to meet the young person that had won this scholarship, get a sense of the project that he would be undertaking with his studies and how that would help South Australia in the future, which of course is at the heart of what the Playford Trust does, ensuring that best and brightest of our young people can find projects that will be in the state's interest and studies that will be in the state's interest and pursue them. And Sir Eric, nearly 100 years old, was still investing his time, and I suspect that the financial support was welcome. I imagine the Playford Trust might have potentially got a grant from the government and may yet ask for a grant from the government in the years ahead to do that in Sir Eric's name. The fact that he was willing to give his time and talk to this young person was, if perhaps even a greater contribution. Stephen Marshall, on hearing of Sir Eric's passing and understanding that this Parliament would be offering a motion, asked me to pass on his condolences as well. He wrote, "Sir Eric Neal will be remembered as one of South Australia's most distinguished citizens, a man who combined an extraordinary career in business with a deep sense of public duty and service. As Governor of South Australia, he brought wisdom, integrity and dignity to the role, earning the admiration of all who had the privilege to work with him. Beyond his official duties, Sir Eric was recognised as a thoroughly decent, highly respected Australian whose contribution to our state and nation was profound and enduring. It was a great privilege to join in the celebration of Sir Eric's 100th birthday last year, an occasion that reflected the immense respect and affection he inspired. As a former Minister for Veterans Affairs, I particularly valued his steadfast support for our veterans. Sir Eric understood and acknowledged the service and sacrifice of those who wore our nation's uniform, and he worked tirelessly to ensure they were honoured and supported in South Australia. His legacy will endure in the countless lives he touched, and we mourn his passing with gratitude for all that he gave to our state and country." Dean Brown, I knew, was very close to Sir Eric, and indeed his time as Premier there was significant in overlapping, and as Minister was overlapping with Sir Eric's time as Governor. And Dean offered me a very short reflection, and he also shared a slightly longer speech. I was paying attention as the Premier and the Leader of the Opposition and other members spoke, and it's an extraordinary thing that I didn't want to overly repeat things that other people had said. But this two-page speech that Dean gave me has very little that overlaps with the other things that have been said. In 101 years, you've got a lot of time, but the idea that somebody would contribute so much through their life to so many very different areas is significant. So I hope that you'll bear with me for 3 minutes more while I read Dean Brown's words. This was from a speech he gave at the AICD, where Sir Eric and Lady Neal were honoured for their contributions to that organisation. Few people have transcended both the corporate and community spheres to the extent that Sir Eric has. Following Sir Eric's corporate achievements, he commenced an outstanding contribution to the South Australian community. On 22nd July 1996, he was invested Governor of South Australia, and Sir Eric and Lady Joan embraced South Australians with a youthful enthusiasm. It was a unique appointment, as he was the first businessman appointed Governor of any Australian state. This meant an immediate introduction of national and international business leaders to South Australia. I think the Premier may have mentioned the new Managing Director of BHP stayed at Government House when he visited. The President of the World Bank visited Adelaide on several occasions to stay with Sir Eric. As the state's economy expanded with new investment and export opportunities, Government House became a familiar venue for business leaders from around the world. They could discuss matters with a common understanding. Supported with charm and an open, friendly welcome from Lady Joan, the Governor greeted thousands of South Australians at Government House and at hundreds of events and visits across the state. They had the ability to care for people and to make people feel that they mattered. After both formal and informal dinners at Government House, the chef, as the Leader of the Opposition I think said, would be invited by Sir Eric into the dining room and formally thank them in front of the guests. He dealt with all people in the same courteous manner. In our weekly Executive Council meetings, when the Governor would meet formally with Premier and Ministers, he strove to learn about the activities of government and the state while maintaining the independence of his role as Governor. Sir Eric had an unprecedented desire to achieve things. Let me give you just 3 examples. In late 1996, the state government supported a joint venture with Business SA to establish Business Vision 2010. A think tank of industrial leaders, academics and key community groups examined how to make South Australia a better place in which to live, visit, do business and invest. Sir Eric personally attended many of the task force meetings. One of the key initiatives arising from the task force was the Governor's Leadership Program, which Sir Eric led, and it continues today and has equipped hundreds of future business, academic and community people with leadership skills. Even at this stage, 2 or 3 years ago, Sir Eric continued as Deputy Patron. In 1999, Sir Eric hosted a dinner of businesses associated with the food industry. Out of that dinner, support was enlisted to get Food Bank SA successfully established, and we know what its contribution still is today. In 1998, the health ministers across Australia decided to form the first national task force to promote organ donations. As Governor, Sir Eric agreed to chair and host the national task force. Today, we are seeing the benefits as organ donation rates continue to increase. Numerous similar stories could be, indeed have been, repeated. He travelled overseas to successfully lobby for South Australia to host the World Police and Firemen Games. After stepping down as Governor in 2001, Sir Eric became Chancellor of Flinders University for 8 years. In that role, he brought a strong appreciation of the importance of international relations as he travelled through Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong and China. He personally conferred degrees on about 20,000 students at graduation ceremonies. His clear analytical thinking has been applied to numerous tasks, such as chairing the Road Safety Advisory Council and the Veterans Advisory Council. Many community organisations have benefited from Sir Eric and Lady Joan being their patrons, but most importantly, he's a down-to-earth, caring friend to many South Australians. Throughout all of this, Lady Joan stood alongside Sir Eric and provided him moral support and a larger-than-life partner. She had her passions such as port power, boating and outbidding others at charitable auctions. We recognise her too for that enormous vitality and energy, and now we celebrate the extraordinary contribution of Sir Eric Neal. I often think that one of the sad things about funerals is that the person who we are mourning doesn't get the opportunity to hear the nice things that people have to say about them. I'm very pleased that Sir Eric was present to hear what Dean Brown had to say about him on that day. I'm very privileged to have met him on maybe half a dozen occasions. The extraordinary impact he had on South Australia and many, many tens of thousands of South Australians will not be forgotten. To his family, from my family, we wish you well, and we express our sincere condolences.